The crystal towers have caught the light of 3 distant suns and scattered it across the palace grounds like scattered diamonds. Danny had been stationed on this alien world for 6 months now, and he still caught himself staring at the architecture when he should have been watching for threats. The built things that seemed impossible, towers that curved like frozen waves and bridges that hung without visible support. Humans were new to this part of the galaxy, and Danny was one of only 12 permitted on the as part of a diplomatic exchange program. He was a corporal in the United Earth Security Forces, which sounded impressive until you learned that his actual job was walking the outer perimeter of the palace complex and reporting anything unusual. The tolerated human presence but did not trust it. Danny understood. Humanity had burst onto the galactic stage only 40 years ago, and most species still viewed them as clever animals who had somehow stumbled into space travel. There were creatures, standing nearly 8 feet tall with 4 arms and exoskeletons that gleamed like polished obsidian. Their society revolved around Queen and her 3 daughters, the only heirs to a throne that had existed for 10,000 years. The Queen's personal guard, were legendary warriors chosen at birth and trained for decades in the art of protection. Danny had seen them practice once. They moved like water made of knives. He was halfway through his evening patrol when the explosion shook the ground beneath his feet. The sound came from the royal chambers, a deep boom followed by the shriek of tearing metal. Danny's training kicked in before his mind could catch up. He was running toward the chaos while everyone else fled in the opposite direction. Palace servants streamed past him, their clicks and whistles of terror needing no translation. Something terrible had happened. Smoke poured from the shattered windows of the Queen's private wing. Danny pulled his sidearm, a standard-issue plasma pistol that suddenly felt very small in his hand. He should call for backup. He should follow protocol. Instead, he climbed through a broken window and dropped into hell. Bodies covered the floor. The finest warriors in the Empire lay scattered like discarded toys. Their black blood pooled on the white crystal floor, and Danny counted at least 15 of them as he moved through the destruction. Whatever had done this had torn through them in minutes. He found blast marks on the walls, evidence of plasma fire, but also something else. Deep gouges in the crystal, the marks of claws or blades that had cut through armor like paper. He heard sounds ahead, clicking speech harsh and urgent, and beneath it a softer sound, someone breathing in pain. Danny rounded a corner and found her. Queen lay against a shattered pillar, her 4 arms wrapped around her midsection where dark blood seeped through her fingers. Her crown had fallen nearby, a delicate thing of woven silver that now lay in a pool of her own blood. Around her lay the bodies of her final defenders, 3 who had died forming a wall between their queen and death. The Queen's compound eyes found Danny, and he saw no fear in them, only a tired acceptance that her time had come. Then Danny saw the shadows moving behind her. 3 figures emerged from the smoke. They were but wrong somehow. Their exoskeletons had been painted in patterns of ash and bone, and their eyes held a fanatic gleam that made Danny's stomach turn. Assassins. They saw the human and paused, clearly surprised that anything still lived in this slaughter. Danny raised his pistol and stepped between them and the Queen. The lead assassin made a sound that might have been laughter. He spoke in broken common, the galactic trade language. "Small creature, soft creature, move aside and live. We have no quarrel with your kind." Danny did not move. His heart hammered against his ribs. His hand wanted to shake, but he forced it steady. He knew he was going to die here. 3 warriors against 1 human with a pistol was not a fight. It was an execution waiting to happen. But the Queen was behind him, wounded and helpless, and something inside Danny, something older than thought, refused to step aside. The assassins attacked. Danny fired 3 times in rapid succession. The first shot caught the lead assassin in the throat, dropping him instantly. The second went wide as Danny dove to avoid a slashing claw. The third hit the second assassin in the shoulder, spinning him around but not stopping him. Pain exploded across Danny's back as the third assassin's blade found flesh. He rolled, came up firing, and put 2 more shots into the wounded assassin's chest. 2 down, 1 left. The final assassin was faster than the others. He closed the distance before Danny could aim, knocking the pistol from his hand with a blow that numbed his entire arm. A kick sent Danny flying into a wall. He tasted blood. His vision blurred. The assassin advanced, blade raised for the killing stroke. Danny's hand found something on the ground, a weapon, curved and heavy. He did not know how to use it. He grabbed it anyway. When the assassin struck, Danny moved on instinct alone. He brought the blade up in a clumsy arc that should not have worked. But the assassin had expected him to cower, to beg, to die like prey. He had not expected the small, soft creature to attack. The weapon took the assassin through the chest. They fell together, Danny and the dying assassin, and for a long moment Danny could not breathe. Then he pushed the body aside and crawled toward the Queen, leaving a trail of his own blood on the crystal floor. She watched him approach with an expression he could not read. Her compound eyes reflected his broken form as he positioned himself between her and the doorway, raising the stolen blade with trembling arms. "What are you doing, small creature?" she asked in perfect common. Her voice was like wind through dry leaves. "Protecting you," Danny said. His vision was fading at the edges, but he refused to fall. "Someone has to." "My daughters," the Queen whispered. "They took my daughters." Before Danny could respond, he heard more sounds from the hallway. Footsteps, many of them. He raised the blade higher, preparing to fight again, preparing to die for real this time. Soldiers poured through the doorway, their weapons raised. Reinforcements, finally. But Danny did not lower the blade until he was certain they were loyal. Only then did his legs give out beneath him. As darkness claimed him, he heard the Queen speaking to her soldiers. Her voice held something he did not expect. "Wonder." "The human," she said. The human stayed. He came toward the fire when all others fled. He stood between me and death with nothing but his own small body. The last thing Danny heard before unconsciousness took him was a question he would spend the coming days trying to answer. "Why did you do it?" the Queen asked softly. "Why did you stay?" He wanted to tell her that he did not know, that something inside him simply would not allow him to leave, that protecting the helpless was not a choice but a need burned into his very bones. But the darkness was faster than his words, and Danny said nothing at all. Danny woke in a healing chamber that hummed with strange energy. His wounds had been treated by medical technology, which worked faster than anything humans had developed. The gash across his back had been sealed with some kind of biological adhesive, and the bruises covering his body had faded from purple to yellow in what should have taken weeks. A young guard stood by the door. When he saw Danny's eyes open, he made a gesture that Danny had learned meant respect. "You are summoned," the guard said. "The Queen wishes to speak with you." Danny dressed in the simple clothes that had been left for him. His uniform was gone, probably too damaged to save. He followed the guard through corridors that still bore scorch marks from the attack, past work crews repairing shattered walls, past clusters of nobles who fell silent as the human walked by. The throne room was vast and cold. Hundreds filled the space, nobles and warriors and advisors arranged by rank in patterns Danny did not understand. At the far end sat Queen on a throne carved from a single piece of black crystal. She looked stronger than she had the night before, though Danny could see the stiffness in her movements. Her wounds had not fully healed. The crowd parted as Danny approached. He felt their eyes on him, thousands of compound lenses tracking his every step. He was the only human in the room, the only human most of them had ever seen this close. He stopped at the proper distance and lowered his head in the gesture of acknowledgement. He had studied their customs before his deployment. It seemed important to show respect. The Queen spoke. 3 nights ago my daughters were taken from me. The Princess Mora and the Princess. They are the future of our empire, the continuation of a bloodline 10,000 years old. Without them, everything we have built falls to dust." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Danny stayed silent. "My are dead," the queen continued. 15 of the finest warriors our civilization has ever produced, killed in minutes by traitors who wore the face of loyal soldiers. I am exposed, vulnerable, and every noble house in this room sees opportunity in my weakness." She gestured and a tall stepped forward. "Lord Ran of House," the queen announced. "He wishes to speak." Ran was massive even by standards, his exoskeleton decorated with gold inlays that marked him as warrior nobility. He bowed to the queen with a flourish that somehow seemed mocking. "Great Queen," he said, "in this time of danger, House offers its finest warriors to serve as your protectors. 50 of our sworn blades stand ready to guard your life. We ask nothing in return but the honor of service." Other nobles stepped forward with similar offers. House offered 30 warriors. House offered 40. Each offer came wrapped in humble words, but Danny could see the hunger beneath. These nobles did not want to protect the queen. They wanted to control her. Whoever guarded her body would control her actions. The queen listened to each offer with the patience of carved stone. When the last noble had spoken, she raised one hand for silence. "Your loyalty moves me," she said in a voice dry as sand, "but I have already chosen my shield-bearer." The crowd stirred. Shield-bearer was a sacred title, Danny knew, traditionally held by the queen's daughters when they came of age. It meant more than just protection. It meant absolute trust. The queen pointed directly at Danny. "The human will be my shield," she said. For a moment the throne room was perfectly silent. Then chaos erupted. Nobles shouted over each other, their clicks and whistles blending into a wall of sound. Danny caught fragments in common, words like abomination and violation and madness. Lord Rand's voice rose above the others. "This cannot be permitted," he roared. "A human cannot hold the shield. It spits upon 10,000 years of sacred tradition. This creature is not even." Queen waited for the noise to fade. When she spoke again, her voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "I have ruled this empire for 300 years. I have seen wars and plagues and disasters that would break lesser civilizations. And I have learned one truth above all others. Loyalty cannot be bought with gold or demanded by tradition. It must be earned through fire." She looked at Danny, and he saw something in her ancient eyes that made his chest tight. "This human had no reason to protect me. No political gain, no family loyalty, no duty of blood. He is a stranger from a strange world who should have run when the fire came. Instead, he charged toward it. He killed 3 assassins with nothing but a pistol and courage. He stood over my bleeding body with a stolen blade and refused to fall." The queen rose from her throne, and the crowd instinctively drew back. "You offer me your warriors," she said to the nobles, "but your warriors serve your interests first and mine second. This human serves no house. He has no agenda. He protected me because his nature demanded it." She descended the steps of her throne and stopped before Danny. Up close, she towered over him, a creature of chitin and power that could crush him with one hand. Danny held his ground. "The hollow crown has taken my daughters," she said. "They think me weak without my heirs, without my guard. They think I will bow to their demands." Her hand came to rest on Danny's shoulder, a gesture of claiming that sent gasps through the crowd. "Let them see my shield-bearer," she announced. "Let them see that the queen stands behind a human, a creature they dismiss as soft and small and worthless. And let them wonder what that says about their understanding of strength." Lord Rand pushed forward, his face twisted with rage. "I invoke the right of doubt," he shouted. "The ancient right. Let this human prove his worth through combat, or let him be cast out as the fraud he is." The queen turned to face him. "You would challenge my choice." I would test it, Rand replied, as is my right. Silence hung in the air. Then the queen nodded slowly. Very well. Tomorrow at midday the human will face your chosen champion. If he falls, I will accept your generous offer of protection. She turned back to Danny and her voice dropped so only he could hear. I have placed a terrible burden on you, small creature, but I believe you can bear it. Prove me right. Danny swallowed hard. He thought about the he had seen, warriors trained from birth to kill. Tomorrow he would face one of their equals in ritual combat. He should have been terrified, and he was, but beneath the fear something else stirred. The queen had chosen him. She had looked at a room full of powerful nobles and picked the small human who had stumbled into her life covered in blood and barely conscious. He would not let her down. I will stand, he told her. Whatever comes, I will stand. The queen made a sound that might have been approval. Then let us see, Danny, what humans are truly made of. The crowd parted as Danny was led away to prepare for a fight he had almost no chance of winning. Behind him, he heard Lord Rand laughing with his allies, already celebrating the humans' coming death. They did not understand yet. They had never seen what a human could endure. But they would learn. The training hall echoed with the sound of Danny hitting the floor for the 20th time that morning. His instructor, an old warrior named who had served the queen for over a century, stood over him with what might have been disappointment. Again said, you telegraph every strike. A hatchling could see your attacks coming. Danny pushed himself up, his muscles screaming in protest. He had been training since before dawn, trying to learn in hours what warriors spent decades mastering. It was hopeless. He knew it was hopeless, but he kept getting up. Watched him with 4 unblinking eyes. You are slow, the old warrior said. Weak. Your reach is pathetic and your bones are fragile. Any child could defeat you. Thanks for the encouragement, Danny muttered. But there is something else. Tilted his head, a gesture of curiosity. You move in ways we do not expect. Your joints bend differently. Your center of balance shifts in patterns our instincts cannot predict. He struck without warning, a blow that should have taken Danny's head off. But Danny ducked under it, moving in a direction that No could have managed, and came up inside's guard with his practice blade pressed against the old warrior's throat. Went very still. Then he made a clicking sound that Danny had learned was laughter. Yes, he said, like that. Your weakness is also your strength, human. You are not one of us. Stop trying to fight like one of us. A messenger interrupted them with urgent news. Intelligence had arrived about the kidnapped princesses. A separatist faction called the Hollow Crown was responsible, radicals who wanted to end the monarchy and replace it with their own ruling council. They were holding the princesses at a hidden location, using them as leverage to force the queen's abdication. Danny absorbed this information while wiping blood from a split lip. The princesses were alive, at least for now. That meant there was still hope. But first, he had to survive the combat. The arena was an ancient structure at the heart of the palace complex, a circular pit surrounded by rising seats that could hold thousands. Every seat was filled. Danny stood at one end of the pit, wearing simple combat clothes and carrying a curved blade that felt too heavy in his hands. His body ached from training and from wounds that had not fully healed. At the other end stood Lord Rand's chosen champion. Was a nightmare made flesh. He stood nearly 9 feet tall, his exoskeleton covered in scars that spoke of 100 battles. He carried 2 blades, one in each of his upper arms, and his lower arms flexed with barely contained violence. His eyes fixed on Danny with the flat hunger of a predator looking at prey. The crowd roared as the queen rose from her seat of honor. Let the trial begin, she announced. May truth be revealed through blood. Charged. Danny barely got his blade up in time to deflect the first strike. The impact sent shockwaves up his arms and nearly dislocated his shoulder. He stumbled back and pressed the advantage, his twin blades weaving patterns of death that Danny could barely track. Within the first minute, Danny was bleeding from 3 wounds: a cut on his arm, a gash on his thigh, a slice across his forehead that dripped blood into his eyes. Was playing with him, the crowd could see it. The champion could end this whenever he chose. "Yield," hissed. "Yield and I will grant you a clean death." Danny spat blood onto the arena floor. He raised his blade with arms that shook from exhaustion. "Not yet," he said. Struck again, harder this time. The blow sent Danny flying across the arena to slam against the stone wall. Something cracked in his chest, ribs probably. Danny slid down the wall, leaving a smear of red on the ancient stone. The crowd fell silent. This was over. The human was broken. Danny pushed himself to his knees, then to his feet. He raised his blade again. Paused, confusion flickered in his eyes. The human should not be standing. The human should be begging for mercy. Danny attacked. It was clumsy and desperate and nothing like proper technique. But it was also unexpected, a wounded creature charging instead of fleeing. Danny's blade found flesh, cutting a shallow line across his chest. The champion roared in rage and pain. His counterattack was savage, a flurry of strikes that opened new wounds across Danny's body. Danny fell again, his blood pooling beneath him. He got up again. The crowd began to murmur. This was not normal. This was not how prey behaved. Struck him down a third time. Danny's blade fell from nerveless fingers. His left arm hung useless at his side, broken in at least 2 places. One eye was swollen shut. Every breath sent fire through his shattered ribs. He got up again. "Stay down," commanded. His voice held something new, not anger, not contempt, fear. "Stay down, creature. Why do you keep rising?" Danny smiled through bloody teeth. "Because you have not killed me yet." He picked up his blade with his one working hand and assumed a fighting stance that was more determination than skill. The arena had gone completely silent. Every present was watching this small, broken human refuse to accept defeat. They had seen warriors fall to lesser wounds. They had seen champions yield from lesser pain. But this human kept standing. Attacked again, but something had changed. His movements were hesitant, uncertain. He had been trained to fight enemies who understood they were beaten. He had no framework for an opponent who simply refused to acknowledge reality. Danny saw his opening. He could not match in strength or skill, but he could endure longer than could comprehend. When the champion overextended, expecting Danny to collapse, Danny moved. His blade took through the shoulder joint, piercing the gap in his exoskeleton. The champion screamed and dropped one of his weapons. Danny pressed forward, driving back step by step, attacking with the desperate fury of a creature with nothing left to lose. The final blow was luck as much as skill. Stumbled on the blood-slicked floor, and Danny's blade found his throat before he could recover. The champion went still. Danny held the blade steady, his arm trembling with the effort. "Yield," Danny whispered. "Please yield." For a long moment, stared at him with eyes full of disbelief. Then he lowered his remaining blade and bowed his head. "I yield," he said. "I yield to the human." Danny collapsed the moment the words left his mouth. The world spun around him, and he felt hands catching him before he hit the ground. Through fading vision, he saw the queen descending into the arena, her attendants trying and failing to hold her back. She knelt beside him in the blood and dirt, an ancient monarch kneeling before a broken human soldier. Her hand touched his face with surprising gentleness. "You impossible creature," she said softly. "You magnificent, impossible creature." Danny tried to speak, but darkness was pulling him down. The last thing he heard was the crowd, thousands of voices raised in something he had never expected. They were chanting his name. They called. And somewhere in the stands, Lord Rand watched with hatred burning in his eyes. This was not over. The human had won the battle. But there were other ways to destroy him. Recovery came slowly this time. The healers had done what they could, but even their advanced medicine had limits when dealing with human biology. Danny spent 3 days in the healing chamber, drifting in and out of consciousness while his body knit itself back together. On the 4th day, the Queen came to see him. She dismissed the healers with a gesture and stood over Danny's bed, her compound eyes studying him like he was a puzzle she could not solve. "The entire empire is talking about you," she said. "The human who would not fall. Songs are being written. Can you imagine? Songs about a human. It has never happened in our history." Danny tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. His ribs screamed in protest. "Great," he managed. "I always wanted to be famous." The Queen made her clicking laugh. "You have earned something far more valuable than fame, Danny. You have earned respect. My warriors look at you differently now. Even those who thought you were a joke have begun to reconsider." She pulled a small device from her robes and placed it in Danny's hand. "This arrived yesterday through secure channels. A message from my eldest daughter. She managed to hide a transmitter before they moved her." Danny looked at the device. It displayed coordinates and a brief message in script he could not read. "She is clever, the Queen continued. "She has told us where they are being held. A fortress in the Badlands of, a region so hostile that even our bravest warriors avoid it." Danny understood what she was asking before she said it. "You want me to go after them?" "I want you to lead a rescue mission, yes." The Queen's voice was careful, measured. "You have proven yourself in combat, but more importantly, you think differently than we do. You see solutions where we see only obstacles. I believe you are the best chance my daughters have." Danny considered this. He was still injured, still weak, still one small human in an empire of giants. But 3 young women were being held prisoner by fanatics. Their mother was asking for his help. "I will need a team," he said, "who can work with me, who will not question my orders even when they seem strange." The Queen nodded. "I have already selected candidates. Warriors who have shown you respect, who believe in what you represent. You will meet them tomorrow." The team assembled in a secure chamber deep beneath the palace. Danny studied each of them as they entered. Was the first, the old warrior who had trained Danny for the arena combat. His exoskeleton was gray with age, but his eyes were sharp, and his movements still carried the grace of a master. Next came a female warrior named, compact and efficient in her movements. She had been among the first responders after the assassination attempt and had seen Danny standing over the Queen with his stolen blade. She had believed in him from that moment. The last was young, barely an adult by standards. His name was Moth, and he reminded Danny of the eager recruits he had trained back on Earth, full of idealism, ready to prove himself. An unlikely unit observed. 3 aliens and a human. The Empire will be writing songs about this too. "Let them write songs after we bring the princesses home," Danny replied. "For now, we plan." They spent hours reviewing intelligence reports and satellite imagery of the fortress. It was built into the side of a mountain in the Badlands, a region of volcanic activity and toxic atmosphere that required specialized equipment just to survive. The Hollow Crown had chosen their location well. Any large-scale assault would be detected long before it arrived. "We go in small," Danny decided. 4 soldiers, minimal equipment, maximum stealth. We find the princesses, we extract them, we disappear before the Hollow Crown knows what happened. Pointed to the imagery. Security systems here and here. Patrol routes along these corridors. They have at least 50 warriors guarding the facility. "Then we avoid the warriors," Danny said. "We do not fight unless we have no choice. Speed and surprise are our only advantages." They launched the following night in a small transport designed for covert operations. The journey took 6 hours through hostile space, 6 hours that Danny spent reviewing the mission plan and trying not to think about everything that could go wrong. The Badlands lived up to their name. The transport shuddered through volcanic updrafts and toxic clouds, its hull groaning under the strain. When they finally touched down in a hidden canyon 5 miles from the fortress, Danny felt like he had survived a small war just getting there. "We proceed on foot," he ordered. "Stay close, stay quiet, watch for patrols." The landscape was a nightmare of sharp rocks and sulfurous vents that spewed steam without warning. Danny led the way, picking a path through terrain that seemed designed to kill anything foolish enough to traverse it. His human eyes struggled in the dim light, but he had trained for low-visibility operations. He managed. They reached the outer perimeter of the fortress near midnight. Danny studied the defenses through a scope while his team rested. "Something is wrong," Moth whispered. "The patrols are too regular, too predictable. It is like they want us to find the gaps." Danny felt cold suspicion settle in his gut. The young warrior was right. This was too easy. Either the Hollow Crown was incompetent or they knew someone was coming. Before he could voice his concern, the world exploded. Energy weapons lit up the darkness from 3 directions. The ambush was perfectly executed, catching them in a crossfire that should have killed them instantly. Only reflexes saved them, the old warrior throwing up a portable shield generator that absorbed the first volley. "Move," Danny shouted, "back to the extraction point." They ran. Behind them, Hollow Crown warriors poured from hidden positions, their weapons lighting up the night. Danny counted at least 30, far more than they could fight. "Someone betrayed us," hissed as they ran. "Someone told them exactly where we would be." Danny knew she was right. The coordinates, the timing, the approach route. Someone in the Queen's court had fed their plans directly to the enemy, the same traitor who had helped assassinate the. They reached a narrow canyon that offered some cover from the pursuing fire. Danny made a decision in an instant, the kind of decision that separates soldiers from heroes. "Keep going," he ordered. "Get to the transport. I will hold them here." Grabbed his arm. "That is suicide. You cannot fight 30 warriors alone." "I am not going to fight them," Danny said. "I am going to slow them down. Get the intelligence back to the Queen. Find another way to save those princesses." He pulled free and turned toward the oncoming enemy. His plasma pistol had maybe 20 shots left. It would have to be enough. Moth started to protest but silenced him with a gesture. She understood. Someone had to stay, and Danny was offering himself so they could escape. "We will come back for you," she promised. "Just save the princesses," Danny replied. "That is all that matters." He did not watch them go. His eyes were fixed on the canyon mouth, where the first Hollow Crown warriors were already appearing. Danny raised his pistol and smiled grimly. "Come on then," he said to no one in particular. "Let us see how many of you I can take with me." The first warrior fell with a shot through the throat. Danny was already moving, using the terrain to break their lines of fire, making them work for every inch of ground. He was going to die here. He knew that with absolute certainty. But he was going to make them earn it. Danny woke to the sensation of cold metal against his wrists. He was chained to a wall in a chamber carved from volcanic rock, his body a single continuous ache. He remembered fighting until his pistol ran dry, remembered the blow to his head that had finally brought him down. He had killed 8 of them before he fell. Not bad for one small human against 30. Ah, the human awakens. The voice came from a who stood in the doorway, watching Danny with undisguised fascination. His exoskeleton bore the ash and bone patterns of the Hollow Crown, but there was something different about him. An intelligence in his eyes that the common soldiers had lacked. Scars covered his face and upper body, testament to a life of violence. "I am the said, leader of the Hollow Crown, and you are the Queen's pet human, the one they call the Shield Bearer." Danny tested his chains. Solid, no obvious weakness. "Pleasure to meet you," he replied. "Love what you have done with the place." Made the clicking sound of laughter. "You have spirit, I grant you that. My soldiers tell me you killed 8 of them before they brought you down. 8 trained warriors fall into a creature half their size. He leaned closer. "Tell me, human, why did you not run when you had the chance? Your companions escaped. You could have gone with them. Someone had to stay. But why you?" Spread his forearms wide. "You are not. This is not your world, not your queen, not your war. Why die for an alien monarch who would not even remember your name?" Danny met his gaze steadily. "She trusted me when she had no reason to. Your assassins had just slaughtered her guard, taken her daughters, left her bleeding and alone, and she chose to trust a stranger." He shook his head. "I do not know how to explain it to you. Some things matter more than survival." Studied him for a long moment. Then he straightened and turned away. "I am going to give you a gift, human," he said. "I am going to let you go. Return to human space. Walk away from this mess and live out your small life among your own kind. This is not your fight." Danny felt the words settle into his chest like stones. Freedom, safety, a chance to see Earth again, to leave this alien world and its alien problems behind. Part of him wanted to say yes. Part of him wanted to run. "No," he said. Paused. "No. The princesses are innocent. They did not choose to be born royal. They do not deserve to die because you have a grudge against their mother." Danny pulled against his chains, not to escape, but to emphasize his words. "And the queen took me in when I was nothing. She saw something in me that I did not see in myself. I will not betray that." "Then you will die at dawn," said flatly. "A waste of courage, but your choice." He left Danny alone in the darkness. The hours passed slowly. Danny tried to sleep but could not manage more than a fitful doze. He thought about his family back on Earth, his mother who still sent him messages even though they took weeks to arrive, his sister who had just gotten married. He would never see them again. He thought about the queen, about N and young Moth. He hoped they had made it back. He hoped they would find another way to save the princesses. He thought about what it meant to be human. Not the biology, not the genetics, but the choice. The decision to stand when running was easier, to protect when abandonment was safer, to love when love brought only pain. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that was everything. Dawn came with the grinding of locks and the tramp of boots. Guards dragged Danny from his cell and brought him to a courtyard where waited with a ceremonial blade. The execution would be public, a message to anyone who thought of standing against the hollow crown. "Any last words?" human asked. Before Danny could answer, the sky split open with fire. Ships screamed down from above, military craft in the colors of the Queen's fleet. Energy weapons hammered the fortress walls as soldiers rappelled down on drop lines. The courtyard erupted into chaos. Danny saw first the old warrior cutting through hollow-crowned soldiers like they were standing still. Then, covering his advance with precise weapons fire. And there, leading a squad of royal guards through the main gate, was Moth, his young face set with determination. They had come back. They had orders, abandoned the mission, and come back for one human prisoner. "Get the human," roared over the sounds of battle. "The Queen wants him alive." Moved to stop them, his blade raised for Danny's throat. If he could not keep his prisoner, he would kill him. But Danny was faster. He dropped his weight, slipping the chain around his neck, and caught wrist before the blade could fall. "You asked why I stayed," Danny growled through gritted teeth. "This is why." He headbutted with every ounce of strength he had left. The stumbled back and then was there, his blade taking through the chest. The leader of the Hollow Crown fell. Across the fortress, the battle was already turning. The Queen's forces had come in overwhelming numbers, hitting the Hollow Crown from every direction at once. And at the heart of the assault, a separate team was cutting through to the cells where the princesses were held. Within an hour, it was over. Danny stood in the courtyard surrounded by fallen enemies and watching as the three princesses emerged from the fortress. They were thin and pale from captivity, but they were alive. Princess, the eldest, stopped when she saw Danny. Her eyes widened. "You are the human," she said. "The one Mother chose. She told us about you." "Just doing my job," Danny replied. His voice was rough from exhaustion. Made a gesture he did not recognize, something formal and ancient. "You stood for our house when you had no obligation. We will not forget." The journey back to felt like a dream. Danny drifted in and out of consciousness as the transport carried them through space, too tired to think, too relieved to worry. When they finally landed at the palace, he found the queen herself waiting on the platform. She said nothing as Danny limped down the ramp. She simply opened her arms, an offer of embrace that Danny accepted without hesitation. For a long moment, the queen of the empire held a battered human soldier while her court watched in astonishment. "You came back," she whispered. "They told me you stayed behind. They told me you were captured, and still you came back." "I had help," Danny admitted. The queen pulled back to look at him. "Yes. My warriors disobeyed my direct orders to rescue you." She glanced at Moth, who stood nearby trying to look innocent. "I should have them punished for insubordination." "But you will not," Danny guessed. "No," the queen smiled, an expression Danny had never seen on her face before, "because they understood something that I was too afraid to see. You are not a tool to be used and discarded. You are family." The ceremony took place a week later, after Danny had healed enough to stand without swaying. The entire court gathered to witness something unprecedented in 10,000 years of history. Queen stood before her throne with her 3 daughters beside her, finally restored to their rightful place. Danny stood alone at the base of the steps, wearing a new uniform in the colors of the royal house. "Danny," the queen announced, "you came to us as a stranger, a representative of a species we barely understood. You leave us as something far more. Today, before my court and my empire, I name you a permanent member of House. You are the first alien ever granted this honor." She descended the steps and placed a pendant around his neck, a crystal that caught the light like captured. "Where you stand, we stand," she said. "Where you fall, we fall. You are our shield now and forever." The court erupted in cheers. Danny looked out at the faces surrounding him, creatures he had once found frightening and alien, and saw something else entirely. He saw family. Later, after the ceremony had ended and the crowds had dispersed, Princess found Danny standing alone on a balcony overlooking the Crystal City. "May I ask you something?" she said. Danny nodded. "What do humans call someone who protects a family that is not his by blood?" Asked. "We have no word for it in our language." Danny thought about this for a moment. The answer came easily, a truth he had carried in his heart since the moment he had charged toward the fire instead of away from it. "Family," he said simply. "We call them family." Made a soft sound of understanding. Then she stood beside him, 2 creatures from different worlds watching the sun set over an alien city. Below them, the empire stretched to the horizon, ancient and vast and full of wonders Danny was only beginning to understand. He was far from home, far from everything he had known. But standing here in this place, surrounded by beings who had become his family through choice rather than blood, Danny felt exactly where he belonged. The shield had held, and it would hold forever.